some of it in there. Same thing. We're going to put a little bit of pressure on it, but I don't want to push too hard because I don't want to throw the alignment out on this machine. And then I'll go to the playback head. So you can see the amount of dirt already kind of in there, right? It's not a lot. The machine was actually clean because we haven't really used it much today. But as the session's rolling along, before you start any session, you want to clean the tape heads so that they're fresh and ready to go. Because oxide will build up on that, and the more that builds up, the more it now starts to create a layer. It's kind of like having cataracts on your eyes, right? Your visibility isn't quite as clear, right? So we're just going to use some alcohol and clean our cataracts. So don't try that at home, kids. Do the 3 heads first, okay, is usually what I do, and then I'll dip the other end in. Sometimes there's a fair bit of buildup, so I want to keep a fairly clean Q-tip as much as I can. Then I'm going to come into my 2 guideposts here, and I'm going to get down the sides of these and over here as well. And then also along the shield, which is right here, I can pull this out to get onto the shield here too. These I want to clean because they also get oxide built up on it, and if I don't clean those, it's going to throw it onto the heads, right? So even though I clean the heads, if I haven't cleaned all the points of contact in the machine, then that's not going to be good because it's just going to be transferring the dirt somewhere else, right? Obviously, if I sweep the floor and I stick the pile of dirt in the middle of the walkway, people are going to walk in and kick it all over the floor again, right? Same principle. Okay, so then we're going to come over here to our idler guide wheel here. You know what I'm going to just do here quickly, guys? I'm going to pull this up back here for you. Just wait there.
3 angles. Film measure.
So this one here, this one rotates, so you can turn it. Usually what I do here is I'll just turn it while I'm going up and down, and I'm just rotating the wheel slightly, so I'm getting the whole surface here. And once I get around, you'll still see the alcohol, but then it kind of dries off and cleans up, and that's actually good to go. Same thing with this guy here. This one, this is my dancer arm. And this one I need to kind of get all the way around on it because the tape travels all the way down and around through here, okay? And then I'm going to come over here to my capstan. So this capstan, I'm going to turn with my fingers at the top. And you can see the brown oxide that's building up on this. Which we can see some coming off there. Do not put any on this rubber idler capstan pinch roller, I mean. This is made out of rubber. If you wipe this down with alcohol, it dries the rubber out. The rubber needs to be soft and supple because what happens is the tape comes through here and this capstan pinch roller pinches the tape together like so, sandwiches it, and this capstan motor and arm pulls the tape through. That's how it actually travels through the machine. So this is the drive motor to that tape coming through. This is the pinch roller that pinches into it, okay? Same thing with this wheel here. This is actually our tack, or our tachometer, basically, or our counter wheel. So this determines as it turns, it's determining how many inches per second are turning on there, which then sends a signal to our remote to tell us we're 1 minute, 31 seconds, 32 seconds, 33 seconds, So this is our little speedometer, basically, right? More so our meter counter, like our position counter, than it is a speedometer, because the speed is determined by the speed meter here, or speed selector here. Which, coming back, I'm just going to come back a little bit now that we've cleaned the whole machine. So we've gotten everything that we want to do in there. So, and we'll put our dirty Q-tip over there. Whoops, shit. Pour my alcohol back into the lid, pop it back on, and there we are. And now we're all disinfectant too. So this machine is an MCI as the manufacturer. Is no longer. MCI got bought by Sony. This machine model is called the JH24, which is a very popular machine. This up top here is our meter bridge. So this gives us all 24 tracks, so we can see what the level is, or meter the level on each of the 24 tracks. Okay. You have two lights on here. One, the blue one, which tells us it's in record ready mode. Okay. So it's able to listen to the input side. And the red one here, which obviously once we press record, tells us that that track is recording. So this allows us to be able to know which channels or tracks on the tape machine are recording. Okay. So basically we're looking at here, this first is our supply hub. So this supplies the tape to the machine. Then we have our take up hub here, or take up reel. This is basically the reel. This is our reel. This is a hub. Okay. Now there is 3 little notches here, so that you can see on the machine there's a little nipple here. Right here, this actually, the nipple has to fit into one of these grooves. There is only one nipple. There's 3 grooves. Okay. Now you can line this up by just looking like this and going down and boom and nailing it. You can also just drop it, hold the hub itself, not the hub lock, just the hub itself, and turn until it drops. Same scenario. And then this, we just finger tighten this hub. Okay. Don't crank it tight, please. It's not a drum or a mic stand, which you shouldn't be doing that anyway, as you well know from talking to me for 1 or 2 semesters. Do not tighten this, because it locks and it's a bastard to get off. We have to come in and do it. You won't get it undone yourself, and then you're real stuck there and you won't be able to do your session. So finger tight is all it needs. Understand, guys, all it's doing here is this little spring. There's a little V groove, and it's just doing this and pushing the spring out. As you can see here, as we do this, you can see the little spring. They're squeezing together, which is pushing the little spring out. That's just stopping the reel from wobbling, right? Once we put the little spring on like so, that's all it needs. It's solid now. Okay? We don't want the wheel wobbling, because as it's motoring, that unbalancedness will create the tape to wobble and create an unbalanced reel, which then the machine will just really it's kind of like having an unbalanced tire, right? Same reason we don't want to overdo, as we're threading this, we don't want to loop over. The tape doesn't want to back over. It'll create a bulge. That bulge will start to create unrounded or unbalanced reel. As it spins and rewinds, the machine will just shimmy, right? I think some of you may have experienced that in your car. I don't know. Which, by the way, if that's happening, go get your tires balanced. Because the hard part about that is it will actually blow a wheel bearing in your car very fast. So it's the worst end on your car end, as it is the worst for this, because that will put extra stress on the bearings of this capstan motor, and they don't make them anymore. So you got to find them used. All these machines now are literally being maintained, most of it, with used parts. We have 2 other machines in here, a 16 track and a 24 track, for parts to keep this machine going. So we used to have parts and a backup. That backup's kind of died because we've had to take parts to make the primary working. So anyway, this machine was built in 1978, so it's older than some of you put together. So it's got some miles on it. So we got to treat it with respect and care, and it will be there for us. If you guys, which brings me to the point, if you guys notice anything with the machine that is kind of finicky or not sure, take a video or a picture of it. Ideally a video doing it if you can, but if it's done it once and it didn't do it again, send an email to Brian. Brian is our coordinator for the summer program, which you probably already know, Wall Collins Away. So get that email to him right away. We need to know ASAP, because this machine, we're all depending on this machine running this semester for our in-class and our ISP. So if it goes down, we have to be on it immediately to try and figure out what's going on. So don't dilly-dally with it. Get that email out immediately so we can get in here and take a look at it to see what's going on with it. Because it might be something that can be dealt with very quickly and easily, but if it keeps happening to other people because you haven't said anything, then we're going to be in trouble multiple times, right? So, okay, you guys get that? I'm coming back now. We talked about the hubs. Let's continue forward. We did say that this was the what? Dancer arm, right? And then we have the
Idler.
What's that?
Idler.
Yeah, basically it's our dancer arm idler, right? So supply idler. So it's basically just guiding it coming through here. Its key point to here is that it catches this guide, tape guide here, that it doesn't touch this metal housing. If you put the tape behind this, the tape will scrub on this metal housing and rip the oxide off the tape or shear the tape. You thread this the wrong way and press rewind and unrewind or rewind the whole reel onto here, you've probably destroyed the whole tape. Okay? So be very careful. The tape always goes in front of this wheel. But your key to it is make sure that the tape isn't touching this black cage. If there's a space between the black cage and the tape, perfect. It's going to come across here, around, and around here. You'll see this. Check the diagrams in the reference manual. It's all in there. So we're going to come across here. As we said at the gate, we'll drop this 2 shields. This is a tape alignment pin or an idler pin. Our first head here is what? Anybody? Record head. Or sorry, erase head. So this erases the track before it starts to record it. So it cleans up anything on that track beforehand so it's fresh when we can start to record. Okay, so this is the erase head. And you'll see that there's actually 24 little rectangles on that. Those are representing each track. So there's 24 tracks. Okay, so we can see them there. The next head is our record head, or what we also call our sync head. It's synchronizing between the record and the cue side, or playback in certain aspects. Now, this head does all of our recording and also allows us to monitor the input through the cue card. It's going to send back the signal that we were actually recording so we can hear it. Okay, so that's why they call this the sync record head. Then we go to our playback head here, which is also known as our repro head. Reproduction, playback, reproduction. You're reproducing what you've recorded. Okay, make sense? So In this case here, we sort of look at these two and go, well, why don't they do it all in the one head? If this head plays back, why don't we just use this head? Well, you can, but when you want to mix or you want to transfer these tracks from the tape machine to Pro Tools, we want our best possible reproduction of that sonic sound that we've captured in the record head to be done and to be placed back, which you'll see here. If we look at this tray, you'll see that there's 8 channels here. So this is 1 to 8, 9 to 16, 17 to 24. Now in this here, you can see that we've got a repro card here. This is actually the card in electronics designed to deal with the best optimal alignment and sound reproduction of what we recorded off of this repro playback head, hence repro card, right? You'll see here output. This is actually just our cue card or our output of the sync head, the record head. So it just allows us to hear back what we're recording simultaneously, right? Then we have a record card, which is actually the record head here. Again, alignment wise, so we can get the best possible recording to the tape we can, right? And then there's just a bias card down at the bottom, which is our biasing of the electronics in there. And that's basically what's in this bucket. This is how we align. Each and every track has to be aligned for the playback, for the record, so that we can get the most optimal alignment of every track. So every track sounds the same, right? Top end wise, low end, mid-range, all that can be recorded, so it all sounds the same no matter what track we put it on. Okay, so that's basically our heads. Then we have another guide pin here. We get to our capstan here, which is basically, once again, this is what's actually the motor pulling the tape through, and the capstan pinch roller pinches the tape together, sandwiches it and grabs it, and then rolls it through. This is our tape sensor eye. So this little guy here basically reads, it's a little infrared light that once it's broken, the connection is broke, so the machine goes, oh, there's tape in there, engage transport, right? So I can literally get that to happen. All I got to do is put a little piece of tape in here. You see the whole transport now engaged. That just lets it know that there's tape in there. So therefore, once the tape rolls off, the machine doesn't keep going. It literally goes, there's no more tape, stop. So the transport disengages. Likewise, while it's sitting here, the tape's not sitting here running all the time, because you can see this back tension is happening on the hub to literally keep the tape tight on the playback and race and the heads, right? Record sync head. So it keeps the tape tight to that and locked in. This wheel will also turn the other way, so it's constantly doing this to pull the tape taut onto the head. Otherwise it would just flop all over the place, right? We already discussed this, that those are basically our tack and then our take up, right? So those are the parts here in the transport. Going through the buttons and knobs here, out of the gate, we have our reference here. This is determining where is it going to get its speed sync from. So fixed is where we generally want it all the time. Well, for you guys, it's always going to be on fixed, okay? So that's straight up and down. Then our speed knob here will determine whether it's low or high speed when it's on fixed, okay? Variable, which is to the left, allows us to change the variable speed with this little red knob. Now you got to be very careful of this, because if you're on variable here and you hit it accidentally on the mode button on the remote, you're going to be probably running faster or slower than 15 or 30 inches per second, which is going to be a problem, because come the point that you go to transfer that, it's not going to be at the right speed or coming back to it, right? So you got to be very careful that this is on fixed, and over there is also on fixed, and I'll show you that after. Okay, guys? EXT, which is external, This means that it's an external reference, okay? The purpose of this was that we could have a second or third or fourth 24 track machine here, and there would be an external sync machine in the back that would read the commands from the first master machine here, which then would send those commands to the slave and every slave after that, right? So there was always one driving and then 1, 2, or 3 following, right? So they have to set the commands for the rest to follow. So if this was the following machine, we would put it into external. If it's the master, then we need to have it on fixed. So it's going to send the information to the other machines. In this environment, we only have the 1 2-inch machine. We did not get an external sync with it. We don't need to. We have Pro Tools will chase this machine through SMPTE timecode. Okay? We're going to show you that afterwards. All right. So this little guide here pushes the tape away from the heads. Okay, so if we want to do a grease pencil or edit or mark it, we can do so. The purpose of this as well is when it goes into rewind mode, this pops out to bring the tape away from the heads so that they're not flying by the heads really fast and increasing the friction on the heads, which will then melt the oxide and stick to the heads. Okay, so it pushes it out, so it keeps it away from the heads. Also, sonically, you'll hear a little bit because you'll catch a little bit of bleed on the edge of the repro head, playback head. When you're rewinding, you'll kind of hear this. That's just the kind of, that's my simulation of rewind and fast forward, or more like rewind or fast forward and stop. So anyway, you'll get that kind of little sound coming through the speakers because it's just enough that it's picking up enough information off the tape, right? So that's basically that. Coming here, we've got our rewind, our fast forward, stop, play, and then record. Record, you'll see there's a box around it so we don't accidentally hit or drop something on the record button and start recording and erasing what we've already recorded, right? So we don't want that to happen. It also just makes sure you sure this is the button you want to hit, right? You got to get your finger right in there, okay? We then have the shield button here, which actually dropped that shield earlier. Right? You can see that the shields popped up there. So I can push the blue button and it drops the shields down so I can clean it or do whatever I need to do or edit or whatever is going on. The purpose of this in here, as we press play, they come up, right? So that it protects the heads. So they're literally just little guide plates to protect the head so nothing falls in, bangs or bumps or hits it while it's recording or hits the tape while it's recording.